Alright, hell yeah. So this is the RMR Thundercloud. Now I was able to pick this up from other town. Someone was selling it. They bought it, didn't need it. And so hell yeah, we got a good deal. This is really cool because I will be able to modify this boat and make it kind of do, and just test the physics. That's the whole point. So this boat is very stable. This is very similar to my RMR Fat Cat. The Fat Cat, so the term I'm going to use is paddle cat. Like the underneath of the boat is very much like paddle cat. Where you have these two outer tubes that are the lowest point. The floor, we're going to see in a second, is sucked up. And so what this gives you is just a tremendously stable platform. You know, if I'm over onto this corner, like nothing's happening really over there. Now, nothing's happening because the physics, we're the heaviest thing in an R1 raft. So let's say we're even just 150 pounds at the lightest. The boat's only 50 to 70 pounds, you know what I mean? And so if we're over onto this tube does release weight. But this is substantially different than my boat that already came kind of with a floor that was a little bit lower. And a floor that was for sure lower in the back quadrant. And so if you were to come over to this tube, you would noticeably tip over onto a quadrant. And even over here, you could just kind of tip the boat right over. Whereas this boat, even at the bow and stern, I still think, it might be fairly flush, but I still think that you're getting two kind of paddle cat tubes. Hell yeah. Now, and so that's what we're going to be modifying. We're going to try to push this floor out because the one really cool thing about this boat is that it is highly rockered. It's probably more rockered than my boat, and where you get this continuous rocker, but still the rocker kind of starts right here. And this is, even in this boat, I want the profile to be, you know, even a foot to 2 foot shorter. This is a 9.5, but you could still, I guess I just want the rocker. I want this amount of rocker right here to, see how like we're rockered and then we're like kind of flat? I want that to happen right here. And so even in my boat, if I'm like right here and I'm just sitting back, it's just kind of interesting with this boat, this 9.5 that's already kind of heavily rockered. There's a chance I might be able to get this boat to actually rocker kind of right where I want it, at least rocker back off of this thwart. Where if here's my neutral position, then if I just scoot back like right here, you know, maybe this whole thing is, it feels like it's like right there. Alright, hell yeah. Alright, so going into yesterday, we did a full paddle session, and that was kind of what I noticed. So because these two tubes act as a paddle cat in the water, where your floor is slightly, you know, sucked up, let's say, two things happen. The positive is that you can potentially kind of get more momentum and more drive with momentum with both the tubes. Like you do have that paddle cat, and then I'm going to be very cautious about using, you know, the cons. So like the opposite, or you know, the physics that happens with that is you get a lot of surface area in the water. So even like the RMR paddle cat, sure you can get it up to speed, but it's a lot of it's a displacing boat, and so you're displacing two tubes with only the leverage of like one R1 paddle. Where if you have a cat boat and you got two big oars to get that leverage, you know, I think you can get more forward drive. But even in a cat boat, I don't think your goal is to keep, you know, a lot of forward momentum. It's more just plant, push, maybe plant, push. I'm I'm not 100% sure about that. But in my boat, if I'm able to lean it over onto edge and even a back quadrant, I think what's happening is that the surface area of the boat is becoming much more like a kayak, where a kayak has like a planing hull, and I'm actually able to like get glide and continue that glide. But once we're up to speed, you know, just being over onto a railed surface, then for sure that's allowing me to get more speed, reducing the traction, you know, the stickiness of just contact points in the water. And so that is the one thing. And so so when you're paddling this compared to my boat, which doesn't exist, so that's why I don't mind, because NRS stopped making it, you know what I mean? So I don't mind using my boat as a litmus test to be like, hey, these boats can do what my boat does, but there is a trade-off. You know, we already talked about, hey, you got all this stability, this boat's really not moving. The only time it's going to move is just if it like purls in a wave, and then you can go high side. But my boat, hella tippy. I come over here, I can just tip the whole thing over. Where here, you know, you would have to leverage. I would have to leverage the boat up. Yeah. So paddling, just in general, in this, it feels. You notice that. I'm just gonna say, you notice the resistance. I want to be very sensitive. I shouldn't even be using the word sensitive and stuff like that. I'm just trying to work on, you know, not using catchphrases that would be negative, that would be labeling. So hell yeah. And so I'm doing good in this video because I haven't used two catchphrases that are in the negative connotation. But even with my boat, I can use negative catchphrases. There's things about my boat that, you know, hella flippy. You know what I mean? That might be a catchphrase. Because in my boat you have such a lowered floor, and then when you tilt on this, the boat is already up at a steep angle, and then it's just really quick to flip over. Okay, hell yeah. So that's kind of what I noticed. You do get a benefit with the 2.2s being wide, potentially, to get, like, once you are getting up to speed, it's harder to get up to speed. But once you are up to speed, I don't even know if it's actually harder to get up to speed, because like the RMR Fat Cat, it might seem like it's harder to get up to speed because you have a lot of resistance. You just have a lot of material in the water, but your actual speed might be higher. And so this is where, from an R1 perspective, and if I'm going to design my own boat, what I really think that I've noticed now is that if your contact point is the same contact point of a kayak, like that much surface, on planing holes, you know, sideways and, you know, fore aft, that one paddle stroke can skim the boat over the water. And then that's kind of what I'm looking for. Just that one solid stroke should be able to kind of get you where you want to go gracefully, you know what I mean? Or, you know, using the hydrodynamics to the benefit. And there's even a benefit because a R1 raft is like a huge amount of surface area. It could be the equivalent surface area of 3 kayaks. Or even just onto edge, this one kayak, I mean, yeah, just this one tube, it could be the surface area of, you know, what I'm thinking is this one tube could be the total shape and surface area of a slalom kayak, which could be like one of the fastest boats out there. You know, and then you just have more material on the side to when you do tip it over, it's stable. Hell yeah. Okay, so we're going to take a look at the bottom of this, and booyah.